right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the School Committee of the Town of Foxborough, regular meeting, January 22nd, 2018. Our agenda tonight is relatively long, but good. I think we've got some meaty topics. We'll recognize any visitors. We will approve some minutes, both regular session and exec session. Mr. McCabe is here with some of his fine students to give us a DECA update, teaching and learning highlight. And then we have proposed 2018-19 Foxborough High School Program of Studies with Ms. Myers-Pacla, Ms. White, and a host of others. Dr. Bertos and Mrs. Mello are going to take us through the 2018 Community Report. We then are going to look at our new technology plan draft for the years 2017 to 2020 with Dr. Bertos and Mr. Heyer. And then Mr. Yukna and Dr. Bertos are going to lead us through the FY19 budget public hearing. And assuming we're all still comfortable with our budget request, we'll have a vote of recommendation tonight. We also will similarly take up approval of the FY19 capital improvement plan. And if that's not all enough, we're going to take a look at and likely approve the school calendar for next year. So we got a lot of good stuff on the agenda. And then other matters, of course. I do want to congratulate one of our partners, the New England Patriots. If they're a partner, it's appropriate, isn't it?
That is absolutely appropriate.
Another thrilling victory. Congratulations to them. They do a lot for our schools, as we all know. We're very appreciative and bring a little bit of enjoyment to the community as well, I would say.
Just a little.
Just a little. So congrats to the Pats. Any visitors who want to be seen or heard tonight who aren't already on the agenda? Seeing none, minutes. Why don't we do the regular session minutes first if we can. I'm going to take the hat off, which prominently display it here. So these are the regular session minutes of January 8th. I should mention, just while people are looking at that Mr. Connolly is not here, at least yet tonight. He had a personal matter he had to attend. So we wish him well, and he may be joining us. He may not, depending on how long that takes. Anybody have any comments on the January 8th minutes?
I had no changes.
No, I didn't either.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of January 8th, 2018.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you, and thank you, Janet, for those. And then we have some executive session meeting minutes from November 20th that we'd like to approve tonight, if the committee is so willing.
I had no changes to the minutes from the executive session of November 20th.
I didn't either. So I'd like to motion that we accept the executive session minutes of November 20th, 2017 as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Teaching and learning highlight. Would you like to kick this off, Dr. Burtis?
I'd love to. I'd like to invite Mr. John McCabe and his fabulous FHS DECA students to our guest table. Super excited with the DECA program and the really the achievement that they have been able to make with the DECA program over the last several years. And we're getting ready to go to states. So I'll let them tell you all about their experience and what's going on.
Let's kick things off. Once again, I'm just amazed at their performance, all the hard work and dedication they put into it, and it shows by what they were able to achieve this time around. Again, we have 18 students who qualified for states.
Wow.
We have, that's 11 different categories, and we had 6 that finished in the top 1, 2, or third place, and then we had a 4th place, 2 5th place, and 2 6th place. So just again, credit goes to the students. I do as much as I can. I try to organize everything, get it all together, but they really have to do all the hard work and prepare for it and get ready. So, to all the students who went, they all performed the best they could, and they did everything they were asked. and was a really great day. And again, just in awe of the results again. So we had the most we've had to qualify for states. So every year we've had continued increase in that. So we're
All
looking.
3 years or whatever it's been?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. So I'm gonna let them speak a little bit about their experience and.
So
Why don't you introduce yourself
I'm Bailey.
first?
I'm a senior this year, and so this was my 3rd year in DECA, and it was really exciting to see how many people moved on at states this year, considering I've been every year, I went to districts every year, and it just grew every single year. The first year I think we had 8 people qualify for states, and then last year I think it was 14, and then this year we had 18, and then we also have students that are going in the quiz bowl, so it's really
Wow.
exciting to see, how many people have come and joined the club and how far it's grown.
Yeah, definitely. So Bailey and I are co-presidents this year. So
And you
that-
are
I'm Caitlin, and
year? What year?
I'm a senior, and this is also my 3rd
Thank
year
you.
in DECA. So we have been working hard and stuff this year to coordinate everything. So we were really excited to see this many people succeed and move on to states, and I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for everybody who's going, because we have a lot of people who haven't gone to states before coming this year, so that'll be really interesting for them to get that experience. Everything.
Yeah, I'm Amelia, and I'm a junior. This is my 2nd year doing DECA. It's my first year that I'm able to go to states. Last year, it was kind of more getting used to it, and my partner and I, worked really hard this year, and we're really excited to go. It definitely takes a lot of hard work, and like Mr. McCabe said, a lot of a lot of planning with your partner, and getting the guts to do that in front of the judges. And I think it takes a lot of work, and it's definitely pays out. So I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, we had a lot of underclassmen this year. It seemed we didn't have. I'm not sure how many seniors either didn't do it this year, but juniors all the way through freshmen, we had a lot of participation, a lot of new students as well too. So people never doing it before. It's the first year, and we actually had one freshman who has qualified for states. First year, so pretty impressive.
Wow.
We also found out, I guess maybe 2 weeks ago, we had done some chapter campaigns. So you can earn spots to the internationals through doing these chapter campaigns. So it's either promoting awareness of entrepreneurship or doing community service, things like that. So we actually did that stuff, submitted it, waited to hear back, and we just heard back that we have 3 spots. So we're not sure who's going yet, but there's definitely 3 people going to Atlanta on Leadership Academy spots. So we'll see.
Congratulations.
We'll see how many. Hopefully, we have more going from the competition side as well, but we'll see.
So for people who aren't familiar with DECA, could you guys maybe just explain what are states all about, and what does it take to go to states?
So DECA is basically a business competition where you pick an event and you have to do a kind of project for it. So all of us did written events this year, and there's also role play events. So I'm more familiar with the written events because that's what I've done every year. And so basically ours consists of an 11-page paper, a 15-minute presentation, and a 100-question test. And then your score combined, you compete against other teams from surrounding towns at districts, and then that's where your score comes from and how you move on to states. And then at states, it's the top 6 from each district, and there's 7 districts. So it's over 30 kids in most of the events. And then you compete in front of judges again, and those top scorers get to move on to internationals. So it's definitely a lot of hard work to get, when you're at states, it's the top of every district, so the competition's a lot harder. But it definitely pays off to, put in the hard work. But Amelia, you did a role play last year, right?
I did not do
Oh,
role
you
play.
did
I did the written.
So me and Bailey have been partners each year and have done written events. So they're definitely a lot of work, but it's really fun when you get to finally present to a judge, and it helps you a lot with public speaking, both the written and the role play events. We had a lot. The role play events basically are kind of like a mock interview. So you go in and you can't prepare as much as you would for a written event, because you just go in and they give you a situation, and sometimes they're okay, so the person you're talking to is the boss of a company, and you're proposing some new idea for this, and you have to come up with some kind of idea to show them, and you usually have 20 minutes or something to prepare your idea and then go in and talk to them. So both kind of events are really good and bring out some different skills. And I think going to states, like she said, it's definitely the competition at states is really hard, but besides the competition, there's some great things. They have these wonderful keynote speakers and stuff that help. And they have these different workshops where you learn like leadership skills, and you meet a lot of really cool people who are interested in the same things as you. So that was really cool to like network and learn how to, do well in the future.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of them, especially with our written events, it's a huge like hypothetical business plan. So it's definitely beneficial for like the future. And like she said, we get to meet a ton of people who are striving for the same goals, and I think it's really interesting.
So Bailey, if I can just continue with questions for a second, what was your paper about, for example?
So we do the fashion merchandising promotion plan. So basically we come up with an idea for a company. So the store we picked was Macy's, and then you come up with a promotional idea for some way to, bring a bigger audience into their store. So for ours, we did, I don't know if any of you have heard of the show Riverdale, but it's a popular show on CW. So we did a Riverdale on the Runway collection, and then we picked 4 of the main characters and did outfits inspired by each of them that would be sold in the store. And then you basically have to come up with advertising, publicity, displays, a budget, and everything like that to try and promote your product and explain how this is going to bring in a new target market and how it's going to help their store.
Great, so thank you. So now I think we probably have a better idea about what types of activities and what the process is, so thank you for the questions.
I've had the honor of judging the last 2 years, and I'm extremely impressed with all of your. I don't know if I've ever judged any of your teams. I know I saw you all last year. My son did it the inaugural year with Mr. McCabe and got to go to Tennessee, in Nashville, and it really helps in college. He's in a business fraternity, and for Northeastern they had their inaugural year this year, business competitions. And out of 30 teams, his team came in first. So I'm giving that credit to you. Because you stepped forward and brought this to our school. And it's a very impressive. And I know that Bev
I went,
blown away by it.
I was able to go the second day,
Yep.
and I was absolutely impressed. The young people have such poise, and I know it's called Dress for Success, but when they came in, I call it tag team dressing. I mean, some of the gals were so beautifully matched, but very, very simply. Very simply. And some of the men, too. So, tag team dressing, right?
But even the way they bounce off each other, if there's 3 or 4, they have it very succinct of how they speak. They like this one's saying 2 minutes, then it goes to the next one, then the next one, and they have it all like practiced
I
out.
mean, it is so streamlined.
It's very impressive. That's what I'm
A
saying.
lot of organization. A lot.
Very impressive.
And like Mr. McCabe said a little bit earlier about we work to get these spots to the International Career Development Conference in Atlanta. And I'm sure Bailey can talk about this too, because we both got the opportunity to go last year, and it was definitely one of the best things I've done in my life. It was really great to meet all these people that I think the coolest part was networking with all these different people from all across the country that had all the same interests as you, and that was a really good opportunity. So it's exciting that 3 people will get to do that again this year.
Yeah, I definitely think that was one of the most beneficial things I've probably done in high school because, for example, me and Caitlin met some kids there that were from Mexico, and they were here, and there was kids from China, kids from Guam. It was I met people from all over the world. And we also made friends that had started their own business and now sell their products, and it was just a really cool opportunity, and we got to go to a leadership conference there, and I just learned a lot of skills that I don't think I would have gotten to learn anywhere else. So that was definitely really cool, and I'm excited that some 3 kids from our chapter are going to go to Atlanta this year.
Where was it last year?
Anaheim, California.
Oh, I knew that.
I'll do a little bragging for Caitlin and Bailey here. So they've finished first place in their category for the past 3
I was
years.
going to say, I know they did that.
So I think that's quite impressive.
Wow, that's quite a record.
And not to put any pressure on them, but we're hoping this year they actually move on to internationals
No pressure.
in their category.
And where would internationals be? Do you know?
This year's Atlanta, Georgia,
Atlanta?
Yeah.
After states.
after states. So it's
Very
states.
good. That would be exciting.
States are in Boston.
States are in Boston, yeah, March 8th to the 10th. So now we're trying to hopefully in some way raise some more funds to help offset the cost for the students, because it does get a little pricey with the hotel and the food and the transportation, all that stuff, so.
think one of the things
Sure,
that's
very
so
proud.
exciting is, talk about 3 years into the program, the number of students that it's gained as far as the participation, and then not only talking about the numbers of the success that they've had. So you're growing your program, and at the same time, the success that the students are having is really something to be very proud of.
Definitely, and I totally, you know, as much as I try to do for them, like they do so much. They really are dedicated to it, because we can only do so much as a group, and you know, getting them ready for it. But they have to really put the time in themselves. So I'm very impressed with their commitment to it. So it's been great.
It's really exciting that this year we had a lot of success from underclassmen, like juniors and sophomores and freshmen, because I know Bailey and I will be like sad to leave next year, but it's great that we like know that we're leaving it in like such great hands of all these people that have had great success throughout the years. So
How many
Amelia, it's all up to you.
students? How many students are participating in DECA?
So we had 45 sign up. We wound up only having 36 actually go to districts this year. Some people had
That's a
dropped off
great
for
amount of
various
kids.
reasons, but
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. So.
I just have to say, when I look at you all, I remember vividly you dressed up, as Bevy said, for your Exchange City interviews.
I did those. I think
And
I was
I-
gonna say, I remember them.
Like there's pictures of you on my computer from that day. So I just wonder, do you think you took anything away from that experience that, you know, made you interested in business, or that you took away as a skill that has helped you? Maybe you haven't, but I'm just wondering.
yeah, Exchange City, it's like funny you say that because Exchange City was like actually one of my favorite things in middle school. I thought it was so cool that we got to like do this experience where you got to like pretend to have a real job, and you know, like in 7th grade, like it seemed cool to have a job and like do all these things. So that was definitely really exciting, and dressing up like that was fun and like different than like whatever your sweatpants and you usually wear to school. So it was exciting to like, you know, find business clothes and just have like a real like adult and stuff. So it's kind of like a similar concept to DECA, definitely, which is why I was probably interested in both.
Yeah, I remember the first day when they told us like that we were going in for the meetings, so, like put on the whole business casual with like the handshake and the whole. That was really interesting to me. But it felt very formal, and I really liked that. I remember it very clearly. I remember I was a business owner.
That's
That was
right.
pretty cool.
That's right. That means you did well.
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really liked Exchange City. I remember I worked in the newspaper, and I thought it was really cool, and the whole experience of everyone like in my grade having a job and like acting like we were like adults. It was really cool. So I definitely did like Exchange City. So
Yeah, you made me think of it when you said the role playing, because when you went for your interviews, it was sort of, I mean, you're a 7th grader, talking to these adults is sort of an off-putting experience, so,
yeah.
good for you.
You shall be very proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Thanks.
and good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, good luck.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I think Mrs. Mello deserves a lot of credit for Exchange City,
Oh,
as we all know.
absolutely.
Not only did
All
she,
the people at
not,
this
not
table.
only did she drag all of us in to volunteer a few times, but
Oh, yes, we've all,
A few, right?
All been there, yes, even
all-
Mr. Youth.
no, you did a great job with that program. Year
thanks.
after year after year.
Thank you. It was a great program. Unfortunately, it's no longer with us, but it was a great program.
I think you're right, though. It is a good foundation and starting
Yes.
why
point
is it
for
no
these
longer
students.
with us?
It went out of business. It was a nonprofit organization, and it actually went out of business. Yes,
The facility in Providence.
yes.
Close.
Where-
The curriculum still exists, but that's the culminating piece, is to
Yeah.
go and actually do all the work.
How disappointing.
I know, very
Because
disappointing.
I did part of the well, you and I were teamed up one year during
Yes.
the
We've been
interviews.
teamed up. We've done them several years back.
And then actually going.
Yes, that's right.
I've went to Exchange City 3 times, I think.
Wow, I guess I went to the same well many times. but That's why we have good people. We want them to join us, so thank you.
I think I was in the newspaper with Bailey. I remember.
You probably were.
Yeah, I think so.
You
She's
hang
a hard
around with
worker.
good company.
I think what's most remarkable about, before we go on to the next thing, and I should have said this when the kids were here, is they are doing all that work in addition to their course load. They're not getting graded for it. I mean, it's an extracurricular and it's a very beneficial one, but that's an add-on to sports, music, drama, anything else they're doing, plus all their classes. It's really amazing.
That's a good point.
You know, so, very impressive.
Okay, our next topic item is our proposed changes to the 2018-2019 Foxborough High School Program of Studies.
All right, so we have Mrs. Myers-Pacla and guests. We have many people joining her this evening because we have some exciting new courses that are being proposed for the Program of Studies. And then we also had a couple of renamings within the Program of Studies. I know we have a separate handout for you, and they'll talk about just some verbiage changes. But start with the courses that we have here. Some of them are coming out of what you've heard before, like with the AP Capstone project, as well as our curriculum reviews and recommendations and kids' interest. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Myers-Pacla.
I'm going to be very brief and turn it over to all of these folks and step to the back a bit. But there's actually 3 areas that we're going to be taking a look at the Program of Studies. One are additional courses that are going to be going in, 2 of which you have heard about in the past, but they didn't run last year, and we knew that they were not because they were scheduled to run in this next coming school year. So we just wanted to do a little refresher. And we've got some descriptors that we're now just having a single page of our different levels, and some adjustments that we have looked at and we've made on course titles and descriptors in our special ed area. So just to let you know on that one. And everybody kind of has a little piece of this, but Ms. Wazalewski, we were hoping was going to be able to make it. She is not, but she is our key person who has been teaching this year the AP seminar course. And so we will be continuing next year, we hope, with the AP research as well. So that is really just an extension of that first seminar course and really putting more of the skills that the students have been learning and researching and doing to a greater extent in this part 2. So it's a part of the capstone that we had spoken about, and the descriptor that's on there is that there is a possibility down the road of a capstone diploma that students may earn, as it says here, that if they take both of the 2 courses of the seminar and the research, and then take 4 additional AP courses, it's a capstone diploma from the Advanced Placement College Board, or the research, the seminar and research certificate, with students receiving in both instances a 3 or higher on the seminar and the research. But they don't necessarily have to do the other exam portion to the same degree. So just to let you, just as another highlight, just to say that hopefully that one, as we said, it all depends upon what students select and elect whenever they're going to be choosing courses. But she will be, probably will be another teacher who had volunteered last year and is very interested in the research component. So we're hoping to have 2 of our staff members trained, and so that'll be this summer again with the AP. It's a part of this particular grant program that we're a part of, so we're excited about that. So I'm going to leave it at that, and then we can go and move into our next end. And I'm excited both on 2 ways, that we do have our department heads, but we're also very fortunate to have a couple of the teachers here who are actually going to be teaching a couple of these new electives. So if we want, we can start with science, and John, if you'd like to come up, and Ms. Macharnik, and talk a little bit about this. And this one I believe you were also introduced to last year, and it really has its roots in the year-long evaluation and that whole movement when we were doing that movement of bio into the 9th grade and the chem. And so this is also coming out of the year study that the science department had done. So come on up, because you're going to need these, and I'm going to move to the back.
I think Mrs. Myers-Pacla said almost everything I was going to say, in that we're adding the Earth and Space Science course for next year because of the K-12 review and the information that came out of that. And there was a big push when we surveyed the students that they really wanted to have more elective courses, and they specifically said that they wanted Earth and Space Science, and we looked at things and said, well, that makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of life science elective courses. We only have 1 physical science elective course aside from the AP courses. And so now we're going to have our Earth and Space Science taught by Mr. Montanaro.
Nice to meet you folks. My name is John Montanaro. I worked with the science department as well to put together the curriculum for it. And one of the cool parts about it is it's learning about the universe, all the processes that happens, our role in the universe, and then looking back at Earth itself and all the things that are happening on Earth to both shape the form of Earth as well as human impact on the environment. So starting off, we're going to start the course with Earth's place in the universe, and then look at the solar system, the surrounding planets, all the things that are happening in our own solar system. One of the requirements that we're going to be having is physics, which enables us to look a little bit deeper. We can use Kepler's laws to predict the elliptical movement of the planets. We can predict the movement of comets and stuff like that. Stuff that maybe some of the lower level courses, it might be a little bit more challenging. As well, we're going to look past that to the life cycle of stars, looking at our own sun and then comparing it to others in our universe as well, both the life cycle, the death as well, and how these processes affect the universe around us. We can also look at other things such as spectroscopy and use that to predict and understand the temperatures of these stars and their composition, even though they're millions and millions of miles away. So. As well, we'll look at the Big Bang and how the universe was created and stuff like that. We'll also then come back to the Earth itself and look at the Earth's interior, everything that's going on with that as far as inside the Earth's core and the layers and their effects that they have on the surface. We'll look at the difference between weather and climate and see how their effects of all types of weather have and change the surface all around us. And also look at different natural disasters such as volcanoes, earthquakes, why they happen, different things that we have to know as well to help prevent their damage and stuff like that. So it's really going to be an interesting course. I'm really looking forward to it, and there's a lot of projects and stuff like that sky's the limits with. So.
Sounds great.
I'm like dorking out over here. I want to take that. And if any students are listening, you're gonna have an enrollment problem, I bet, because that is, I mean, just the integration and application of the sciences in general, I think is so cool because it gives it an authentic purpose.
Yeah.
But these are things that we touch upon all the way through the curriculum. So to be able to take a deep dive in such a cool way,
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Definitely. I teach 9th grade biology, and I had taught the physical science when we were still using that, and the kids would always ask, when are we learning about the Earth? When are we learning about space? We did that in middle school. We want to learn about it. And at the time, we didn't have a course, and so we kind of were talking about it, and it's always been a passion of mine, so I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
That's wonderful. Great.
To Mrs. Mello's point, have you looked at what you think you'll get for numbers for interest? You know, it's just a guess, I know at this point.
If I made an educated guess,
Yeah,
we
we won't
know
hold you to it.
that biology, chemistry, and physics are all prerequisite courses.
Right.
And there are approximately, hold on, I can do this, 115 juniors in physics this year. So that would be 115 eligible students,
Right.
but then we have to think about who's going to be interested. Many of those students aren't going to go the Earth and Space route. I think that's as far as I've gotten, as I know who's eligible. I think it would be really great if we had 2 courses worth, but I don't know that we can say, yeah, we'll definitely have that many kids, or even if we did, would have the space to run 2 sections.
Great, thank you.
I think it's great to have an honors science option for the 12th graders because you have AP physics and AP chemistry, which are wonderful classes, but this incoming senior class is the first one that started with the biology. So having another option for kids who are very interested in science but might not be prepared, that's not the right word, interested in taking an AP class, or might have other AP classes that they're balancing.
Absolutely.
You know, but wanted to take an honors level science. This is great. It sounds great too.
We should sit in on that if we need.
I think too, it's so exciting. We're talking about the curriculum program review, and by taking the students' interests and what they're looking for as far as elective, and especially those that want additional science courses.
Right.
It provides that opportunity for more science courses, and it's really listening to their voice and showing that we are listening to their voice.
That's a really good point. And I think once they if you get a small cohort the first time, it's like anything else. When they start to talk about it,
Yeah.
then everybody wants to.
Great,
And those are exciting topics for middle school too.
Totally, yes.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, Kristen Dorico, to talk a little bit about a history elective.
This one sounds pretty cool too.
Good evening. How are you? So the course I'm proposing is Hamilton, and it's going to look at the blockbuster musical. I'm a theater nerd. I love musical theater. And listening to the musical, it just brought there's so much language within the musical and so much that is dealt with, both historically and bringing it to very current contemporary age, that the course I'm trying to develop is looking at the issues that are discussed within the musical and using those to anchor our learning. So it's going to look at the past in the 4 areas that I'm going to discuss, and then it's going to bring it to the current events. So we're going to look at immigration, we're going to look at women and women's rights, we'll be looking at politics and power, and we'll be looking at protests. And those are the 4 themes that the course is going to be derived around. I really want to be focusing in on language, how we use language both then and now to discuss this, using the musical's language, but then also current events, lots of debates, lots of current articles. I want them to be reading things that are within our realm today and watching things that are current to today, and really kind of bring the past and the present together. See how we've changed in our language, see how we've come in a different direction.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, this is the course I'd like to take.
You can audit it.
I
That would
know
be
one
great.
Bellinger who's going to be very sad that he's graduating and not able to take it, and I know one who will probably be in your class next year or the year after. That's awesome. Sounds fantastic. I mean, I know the kids love Hamilton, and I know Jack's class went with Ms. Lonergan
Yes.
last year to see Hamilton. Mr. Gardner's son Brady went as well, and it was just phenomenal. It was just a great experience for the kids, and both my kids have memorized like the entire score, I think.
Yeah.
So, and tying it into current events is just great. I mean,
Do you know which semester it will be?
I'm hoping that it will run a section both semesters.
I
So
would
have
be
a fall
shocked if it
section
was
and a spring semester as well.
Yeah, I
So
would think so.
I think that would be the hope for putting it into the program of studies, that we could get it for both a first and second semester offering.
Am I right in thinking it's pretty cool that Kristen created this class, or is that typical of how a lot of these come to our attention?
I think that yes.
Yes and yes.
The creativity that we have with our teachers, again, thinking about current situations and making things relevant for our students in order to really get them engaged. And I think this is a great example of that. And talking about those that did go to Hamilton that are going to have that background and that experience. But again, the way that you are tying the past with the present and those themes, that's going to be something that's going to be very engaging and very timely.
Thank you.
I think it's super clever and creative, and I might have a full course load next year because I'm.
You joining them all?
Well,
you
my
coming back
social
to high
studies, you know, I probably should for social studies because I never had like an engaging experience with social studies,
Right.
and something like this would have really turned me. You know, I would have been more interested in it. So I think it's a really cool idea.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Thank you. And all the activities and the assessments are all, they're gonna like have to write a song, and it's all alternative
Oh my God.
assessment.
How?
And
Wow.
they have to, what do they
In
have to
rap, the way they do it?
One of them is the choice, like to make your own verse, to make your own newspaper and interview, to do a biography, and to choose to do like an illustrated quote. So it's all very kind of alternative assessment for most of the bigger assignments that will be throughout the semester. So,
But you can see the excitement there.
Oh, yeah.
So when we talk about having students excited about taking courses, teacher excitement, that's what drives it as well. So you could have someone that maybe history, social studies, not necessarily their favorite, but something
this
like an
would-
elective to try to, dip their toes, and it will be something that really grabs them and have them look at it very differently.
well, thank you for
I have
giving
a
me the
word of
opportunity
caution for all the
to be
parents.
creative.
I have a word of caution for all the parents whose student is going to take that. If they are signed up for the course, they'd better start saving because they will want a big Hanukkah or Christmas present. Please take me to see Hamilton.
Yeah. I cannot promise them tickets.
No, that's why I guess I'm.
That is not part of the course description.
I'm giving a gentle suggestion to the parents of the students who will be privileged enough to take your class.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our department head for music is here, Cami Toldi, to talk a little bit about the Piano 1 and Piano 2.
Good evening. So Mr. Raymond is actually going to be teaching this course, and you may or may not know he welcomed his first child last weekend. So,
Oh, congratulations.
so I'm here.
Little
He's
boy,
home with the
little
baby,
girl?
little boy.
Congratulations.
Yes, I will share that with him. So we are running a Piano 1 and a Piano 2 elective, which is actually going to be merging with our current offering of music technology. The result of this, the way that we sort of came about this was a couple of ways. One was through our K through 12 curriculum review a couple of years ago. We were trying to find ways to add the National Arts Performing Arts standard to the music technology curriculum. So this was a way to add piano to that while continuing to use keep music technology as part of our curriculum. And also as a response to community feedback, mostly from our students, and a quick survey with Mr. Raymond asking if there was interest. And then on top of it, as you all may or may not know, Mr. Raymond himself is really an expert piano player. So when we can find courses that we can run that meet the strengths of our teachers, this is a great opportunity for that. So the class itself is going to teach the basics of piano, and then we'll be able to integrate that into the music technology portion of it and allow for room for composition and that. And then there'll be a second Piano 2 to build on those skills for students who may either come in with already a prerequisite of some piano experience or have taken Piano 1 and want to continue on to Piano 2. Do you have any questions?
How do we do that from obviously we don't have
Yeah.
24 pianos sitting in a room somewhere.
I'm over here.
So how do we actually, I mean, how would you instruct on that level? Because obviously I took piano when I was a kid, and it's a lot of practice time, and it's a lot of on the keyboards type of thing to get proficient on it.
Yep. So we'll have pianos that we're ordering that they'll be able to set up, and they'll have access to our music wing where there are pianos in our practice room. And we'll be able to sort of work that out where students will be able to use pianos, but basically during the class time it will be structured in a way where it will be a lot of independent work. So he'll sort of instruct, say, okay, you all try, he'll walk around, sort of do some surveying. So I anticipate a lot of the learning will be done during the class, with the opportunity to practice outside using our current facilities. And then we're purchasing portable pianos.
Keyboards, yeah.
Yes.
Sounds great. Especially taking advantage of Mr. Raymond's skills.
Yes. Yeah, and he's really excited about that. So.
You can help the students in Hamilton with the beginner level.
I was going to say if you need our help with any
cross-curricular
work. Yeah.
Yeah, cross-curricular cooperation here.
We can help you with the recording and all that.
There you go.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
It is amazing, though, with having the portable keyboards and what that's done as far as access for students and learning piano and not having to have an actual piano in their home and still being able to acquire those skills.
Yep.
I guess I asked that question because we do have a phenomenal facility over at the middle school.
Yes.
But we don't have that here. So I didn't know how much of a restriction that was going to be, obviously, to try to do this. But
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Cammie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Wazalewski is here if you have any questions that pop up, or give any, even to talk a little bit about how the course is going this year.
That's what I was thinking, too, how the course is going this year. Just talking with some of our students, it's so exciting.
But I also just pop this little piece in too. I think the other thing too about the music, which I just want to highlight too, is that we do have students who are so interested in participating in music, but perhaps just don't have that room to be in one of the performing ensembles. And so having the opportunity, whether it's guitar or now with the keyboarding, or with the piano, it just gives those kids who do want to do something but don't have all that time to be able to dedicate. Or I oftentimes think so often of like the garage bands, where everybody wants to play or do or be or imagine, what they are, and this just gives everybody that opportunity to perhaps be able to explore that a little bit more too. So I just wanted to say kudos and thanks for that, and then I'll let you take it away.
Hello. So AP Seminar we're halfway through. We have started, I'll back up. AP Seminar is a research course, and it teaches how to do research. So some of you know probably have heard at home how much fun the course is and how much work it is. But we've spent the first half of the year doing the learning around research. And now the students are almost done with their first part of the AP exam. For this AP course, there are 3 parts to the exam. 2 of the parts take place during the school year, and 1 is at the end of the year, like a regular AP course. So they are just about done with the first part of the AP exam, which is a team report and presentation. So they picked a topic, developed a research question, separated into individual research. They're turning that part in tonight, actually.
Good to know.
What time is that due exactly, Shannon?
11:59. Then that goes to the College Board to get scored. And then they come back together and they propose a team solution for the research problem that they came up with. And then that becomes a team presentation that they give. When are we giving that? February 8th is when they're giving that. So that's exciting. And then we go into the second part, the PT2, and then that is an individual research project. Same kind of components. There's a writing component and a presentation component, and then the end of course exam is just like a regular AP exam at the end of the year. So that is going very well. I think the kids are enjoying the research part of it, although I think they find that it's a bit of work. But I think now that we've moved into kind of doing their own research and, exploring issues that they're interested in, I think they've found that to be very fun and exciting. So that's AP Seminar. First time around, I think it's going very well.
How many students?
There are 12 students currently. Most of them are seniors, although I have 3 sophomores.
Oh, good. So they'll spread the
4
word.
sophomores. 4 sophomores.
Right.
Yeah, so that will move into AP Research, which is the second part of the Capstone course. So Seminar teaches you the skills, and then AP Research lets you apply them. So you spend the whole year doing a research project of your own, checking in, but then you spend that whole year doing an independent research project. So that's the next course. And then at the end of that, if you get a 3 or better, you get an AP Capstone Diploma.
I think the Capstone
Which is cool.
diplomas and certificates are very exciting.
Yeah,
When
I
I read
agree.
the description of those.
I think it shows that you have done a lot of work, and I think it looks very good for colleges. And then the skills that you learn in the course, I keep saying this over and over again, the skills that you learn in the course are just very helpful. How do you do research? How do you work independently? How do you work with a team? How do you do presentations? All of those skills are just so incredibly helpful in college. And every day we come in and I'm like, oh, you have no idea what you're gonna, this is so great.
You'll thank me next year, I promise.
That's exciting.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's very invaluable.
So mine is one of your sophomores, as you know, and he loves your class, and I am very impressed with the work that he's been doing in your class, and I know that it's going to be, I've told him, it's probably the class that he's going to be able to use the most throughout in all of his other classes in high school and in college and down the road if he continues to go to graduate school. But it's just a phenomenal experience, and I hope that more students decide to, take the AP Research next year or AP Seminar and then AP Research the following year. With only the 4 sophomores, though, are you planning to run a section?
Probably
of the AP?
not,
Yeah.
Because I think because they're sophomores.
Right. They have time.
They have time, and so we'll try to get another crop of seminar kids next year.
Well, it would be a more beneficial experience to have more
Exactly.
students in the class,
Yeah,
because 4
exactly.
students, they could do their research, but they would have less opportunity to collaborate and critique one another's
Exactly.
research.
And they have really taken advantage of working with each other, and they've come together as a class, because once the exam starts, I can't help. I can only facilitate. And so they have really come together, and they've done peer review, and they check in with each other on research questions, and they, can you read this for me? Or does this research question, does that seem okay? Is this too broad, or is this, too narrow? It's been really good to see them working together as a group.
And you're in the middle of your doctoral program as well, so I'm sure some of the skills of what you're teaching, you're able to apply at the same time.
Wonderful. I've actually also brought in some of the research that I do as kind of a model, like this is what an annotated bibliography looks like, and this is, the research question that I'm working on, and so they can kind of see a real life application.
That's great.
Yeah, that must inspire them that you're doing it too, so, I mean.
It's all real life stuff, yep. Yep, sometimes a little too real.
Yep.
May I speak to your English side?
You sure can.
Are you aware of the fact that there's going to be, during one full week in February, towards the end of February, a production of Romeo and Juliet in Boston in the original language?
No.
Which is a combination of Scottish, Irish, and I didn't know the third.
Original language is pretty intense.
And there are there'll be 11 performers, but I can get that information to you,
Please.
because if anybody, I want to try to get in to see that Shakespeare
love
in
that,
the
yeah.
original language right in Boston.
That only happens at the Globe.
I know. Well, I will get that info to you.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
Anything else, Shannon?
That's all for me.
We did have a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, just some overview language within the program of studies. So,
Thank you, Shannon.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And isn't it awesome, like the variety of courses though?
Yeah, just the choices are
So
fabulous. We didn't have these growing up.
No.
The choices are fabulous, and all the passion from
I was thinking
all
the same.
of the
True.
different
True.
teachers
From
and
the
the
teachers
different
and the
subjects, but they're all, the commonality is the passion they all have for their subject. Excuse me.
It does make you want to go back and take courses too.
Really, truly, it does.
That's why we love our instructional rounds.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I come here every year with the program of studies, and I just want to highlight the things that are different as opposed to going through the whole thing. So everybody has a copy of it. There's just a couple changes. The new courses obviously are part of the changes, but then we do have a couple other things I just want to go over with you. And one of them is on page 9. Okay, the descriptions of the classes. So we've always had descriptions of classes, we just have never had in the program of studies. We wanted to be very, everything clear. So I worked with the department heads to come up with these descriptions of what every class should look like, the kind of student should be in every kind of class. Advanced placement, honors, college prep, and college prep 2. And if you notice college prep 2, we've always had that, it's just a renaming of it. It was our alternative classes that had an A connotation to it. So that is the college prep class that we're going to speak a little bit more about in a little while. So that's in addition to the program studies, and then we just wanted to go over why we're making some of these changes and renaming some of the classes and so forth. So
when we reviewed the program of studies from a special ed point of view, we decided that some of the language that we had concerns about. So what we did is we consulted with one of our special ed attorneys, and she recommended that we really look at renaming primarily the alt classes to the CP2, and then the life skills to practical and fundamental. And the reason that she suggested this is that the descriptions to change these is to ensure that we are in compliance with ADA and anti-discrimination law that dictates that school systems can't really flag or denote that a student taking that class is a special ed student. So that's one of the reasons that we're considering that. So instead of giving labels that identify disabilities, we're giving labels that identify the rigor of the courses. The second piece of that is that we're really looking at wanting to be clear with parents about the level of rigor for those courses that their son or daughter is taking. and what courses we'll be using a modified curriculum. So that these adjustments by renaming and describing the level of rigor, so it's really that we're clear with parents so they understand what kind of experience their child is having at Foxborough High School. So again, these changes or these adjustments will not be rolled out only to the 9th grade coming in next year, and then thereafter will be they'll be reflected not only on the transcript but also on the report card. So.
Good.
So it's not as
Makes
exciting,
sense.
not as exciting as those courses. I mean, I wanted to take those courses
Makes-
too, but
Makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, hi, any questions? Joe, have a question?
Well, if you guys are done, well, I'll
I think
entertain-
Joe has one,
I'll
yeah.
entertain Joe's question, yeah.
So are we not naming courses alternative anymore? Is that what is gonna be going on? It's either gonna be practical or fundamental?
Yeah, they're splitting, like, the alternative classes will be either practical classes or fundamental classes, two
Like,
different groupings. yeah.
Alternative means like you're discriminating.
Well, we don't want to red flag anybody to think that we are discriminating or, identifying them as special ed, right?
all classes are the CP2.
Mhm.
And then life skills is going to be divided up in two, practical and fundamental. But nothing will change for you, Joe. Okay? So,
And I think that that's the point, is this is such a small population of students, but we wanted to make sure that with the ADA compliance and that we're not discriminatory, that we have it and we're very clear about the descriptions.
Makes good sense, I think.
Right, right. So, so there is, we always had two program of studies, the freshman one and the complete one. But what you'll just notice is, since we're rolling it out, the naming of the grade 9 classes might be a little different than the naming of the grade 10 classes and so forth, just because we're bringing it in slowly. So when you're looking through that, that's the only thing that you kind of need to be aware of.
all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Lorraine, no other changes to the document? that,
No, just the new classes and, yeah. No.
Sorry, Amy.
But no.
No, just for the proposed classes.
Yeah, just for the proposed
Yeah.
classes, right, yeah, and the changing of the names. No?
Great, thank you.
Okay.
I can't recall, do we need a vote on the new classes?
To approve the new classes.
That's what I thought.
That is what I thought
Yeah.
as well.
Would you like to make that motion,
I
Tina?
would love to make that motion. I would like to move to approve the new courses for 2018, 2019 as presented.
I would like to second that.
Any further discussion? All those happy?
Do we have
I
to,
think Mrs. Mello is happy too.
do we have
I
to,
couldn't raise my hand, but I'm.
do we need to approve the verbiage in the,
Oh, why don't we? Just the classification.
I'll move to approve the program descriptions as presented.
I second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if that one was quite as necessary, but it could be
Oh, but
considered a policy.
it's-
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
It's
a
now
good
on
idea.
record.
So, too.
It's now on record.
yes, it is.
Well, and I appreciate the diligence and thoroughness that Dr. Einzel takes, to every aspect of our special ed program, and that is certainly an important part of things,
And I
making
think-
sure we have the right verbiage and, we're doing the right things, but we also want to be saying the right things.
Exactly. And I think it's another example of when you have something that's something annual, whether you're proposing new
Right.
courses, but you are continually going back.
over
And
it.
looking at that and seeing if there's anything that we're missing or anything that we need to change. So it's really doing due diligence.
Well, and just extending off of that, you guys will remember, I get excited every year when we do this program of studies update, just because to me it's a living document.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll even connect it to our later discussions on budget, but if we didn't have the budget support and the town support in general, not that there's anything new in the budget to support these things, I want to be clear, that's not necessary.
No.
But it just, because we have the community support and the financial support of the town, it allows us to have a living and breathing and changing program of studies, which I always think is fantastic. I suspect that we don't have quite as, or you don't see quite as progressive a review and creation of new offerings everywhere. But I think that all starts with the baseline of support we get from the community, so that's great, it's exciting.
It is.
Okay, we ready for the community report?
So,
Sure are.
All right.
So the district community report, which is now 6 years later, is part of the strategic plan under Objective 4 and a way of promoting the Foxborough Public Schools being a really important strategy so we can showcase all of the wonderful things that are taking place with our curriculum programs, our teaching and learning. So the report itself here, I'll just note that there's changes as far as we have the new strategic plan. So we have updated strategic plan's objectives, vision, and mission that are there. And again, really looking at what we're trying to do as far as developing our students once they leave Foxborough High School. So that information is pretty just staple information that's there from those plans. But if you turn to the next page, one of the things that we had talked about a year ago was what were some things that maybe we should add? It may not even been a year ago. So to highlight, and the culture and climate survey that we do through K-12 Insight was something that we've had that in play for 5 years. And the graph that you see, that's the perception data on when we survey students, parents, and staff as far as how they see the education quality. And we had talked about at this table that it's really important to say that we have a lot of achievement data, whether it's our baseline and benchmarks report or MCAS data or AP data, SAT, ACT, et cetera. But this is one piece of data when we're asking, how do you really feel about the education that your child is receiving in the Foxborough Public Schools? So this is a data point from the K-12 Insight, so it's showing over the last 5 years that you can see the percentage of seeing that it's a good or excellent education is 99% for staff, 95% for parents, and then students 87%. So you can see that it is just really the stability there. And again, you're hitting the ceiling there when you look across all three of those stakeholder groups. So the other information that's on this side of the report is the information that we've had in the past, looking at our enrollment, our socioeconomic status, our special education population, and that's information that we also highlighted back in November from the baseline and benchmarks report. So maybe I should stop right there and just get some ideas on the graph and how it's portrayed there based on our conversations we've had here in the past.
I like it. I bet the only thing that jumps at me is the difficulty in reading the staff, parents, and students in a black and white copy in the middle graph. But, you know, they're also high, as you said, it's kind of hitting the elevator, the max, the ceiling of rating, so it's probably somewhat statistically irrelevant. But I think, I as you know, I've been involved in the community report for quite a while. I'm very proud of it and what it shows that you all accomplished, so.
It could be that if we did like a dotted, a dashed, and then a solid or something to be able to help.
Differentiate.
Right.
Yep, no, I think I mean, if someone is new to town or is questioning what we spend or anything else, it's.
Or the
it's all here.
results.
Or the results, thank you, Bevy, yeah.
And the demographics, the numbers at each school, the students eligible for free or reduced lunch, and the special ed population. I think it's a good data point to share with the community, to have a good sense of who we are as a school district.
Yeah, just to make that point, for those who don't have the report in front of them, it's always interesting, isn't it, to think that Foxborough accomplishes all this, but still looks out for every student. And when we say every student, 17% of the district, special education.
Yep.
And as we've talked with Bill about, that has a real funding attachment to providing services for special needs students. 17%. It's
almost a fifth.
Yeah, it's a sizable percentage. And then eligible for free or reduced lunch, you know, over 20%. So I think it just is it's an indicator of who we are, and it's also, I think, an indication of what kind of educational service we have to offer.
Exactly.
What I like about it is that it's a true infographic where you don't really have to do much reading to get a lot of good information. And I think parents really appreciate that, where they can get quick, digestible bites.
Yeah, your perspective, Allison, is great because you haven't necessarily sat and debated this thing like we have before.
Yes.
So, yeah, great. It's great to have fresh eyes on it.
Agreed. As far as the other side of the report here, the information, again, is providing all of those data points that we've done in the past. Under the recognition section here is really calling out what we've talked about when we're looking at how are we preparing our students at a national and even, beyond. So this particular point, the OECD test for schools, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the test that we voluntarily decided to take and to see how we would do, as we've talked about at length here at this table, but to really show that we're not afraid to do something like that, to see how our students will fare nationally and internationally, being that that's an international benchmarking tool to compare their performance on that cognitive test, and seeing that that our students, they did perform at a significant level in reading, math, and science, and all three cognitive tests across the nation.
I might bold that last sentence so that it pops out
Funny,
a
I
little bit
highlighted
more.
that on my copy.
It's all great information, but there is a lot on this page, and on the column to the right where it says what's new and did you know, the bold stuff definitely pops out at you.
Instead of
So
saying
I think you should bold that last
Okay.
sentence. Just to,
Oh, yeah, we did internationally, too.
yeah.
Right.
And there's so much information that we've talked about there, so just even to have a snippet that's here, it was hard to really hone in, but we do talk about it in all the other different, and again, that's our K to high school success story. It's not just about high school, it's really
No.
preparing our students from kindergarten
Yep.
throughout all of our schools. As far as the what new section, as we heard this evening from Shannon on the AP Capstone program, so calling out there about the research program for AP, seminar and capstone, and then the ability to have that diploma for their success, and then that we are no longer fees. We've talked about so many times having the kindergarten fee being our only fee, and now being able to have that in bold. So excited that the community has supported the universal free full-day kindergarten.
That's great.
So if there's anything that you were thinking of, and again, this is the draft to get feedback here. We added last year the different recent college acceptances. Laureen helped to make sure that we had this completely accurate as far as any that we needed to add from our class. This was based on class of 2017. And I think that's, the rest of it is pretty similar, other than things like the Scholastic Art Awards. And again, the Ellington, those happened again. It's not old news,
Right.
it's new news, and continuing to have
Right.
the great success that our students have made.
I suppose if you had more room, which you don't, you could put DECA in here
Yeah.
if it isn't already.
Squeeze that in.
Well, it's interesting that you said more room, because Janet had an idea with the way do you have a copy with you by any chance of with its folded? Yes.
Yes, I do.
So we'll let you be Vanna and hold that up for a minute.
Okay.
So when this is mailed out to our community members, you can see the front part as far as the address.
The mailing.
The mailing
Yes,
part.
the
But on the
mailing.
back side of it,
Empty.
I don't know if Mike can see it.
it's
Let me-
empty.
Oh, do I have to?
It doesn't need to be anything.
Can I do it over
There
here?
you go, Mr. Gardner.
I much prefer you
He'd be
being
like
Vanna.
Vanna.
No, I prefer you are.
We're not gonna put you in a cocktail dress, though, Bruce. That would be weird.
So one of our ideas,
I like his
The hat is yeah.
one of the ideas, and this was Janet's idea, if we had, so there's so many, the recent college acceptances, if you had that on that back side, so you see that on the outside of the mailer, right there,
acceptances?
then it would allow us more space that we could
Yeah,
really
right.
highlight some other things.
Yes.
And you have that right to capture the eye right when it comes in the mail.
So that we'd lose some of it in here.
We would lose that
whole
section
chunk.
in here, it would move to the back, but it would provide us more space to be able to highlight some other things like DECA.
Right. You'd have more room.
Great,
Yeah,
love it.
I think that's a
Great idea, Janet.
Put like a little pennant on
Janet.
there, like so that it'll attract their attention. That's college. That would be cute.
I think it's great that we
like it too.
continue to invest the time and your time to put out to everyone in the community how we're doing. And what year is this? Sixth? did you say?
Six, yeah.
Sixth year we've been doing this. I just think we owe it to the community. They give us their support, and so here's our community report in return, and any questions can be directed to the superintendent's office, I suspect.
Absolutely.
So-
It's
So when will it go out, Amy?
We've traditionally sent it out at the end of January. So if the committee is in consensus and we'll make those changes as far as adding the
I think
DECA
that would
piece
be
and.
exciting.
Oh, yes, you should. Yeah.
And this is an incredible list of college acceptances this year. I mean, they're all up there.
Is there any way, like, the recognition of the OECD test? Like, would DECA fit there and you can do more of the numbers? Because it was very impressive, even like at our parent leader meeting, people were in shock when they saw the numbers that were on that report.
So kind of like what we've done with the Scholastic Art Awards and the Writing Awards, listing the numbers that are there?
Right.
Sure.
It's just an idea. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but I mean, it really made a difference.
Well,
Those numbers were, they were very
Pretty
impressive.
impressive,
The
yeah.
percentages.
I did have the same reaction, Marilyn. First, that, you know,
It's very
it's hard
small.
to figure out what you want to hone it down to, but if we give you a little more space and you pulled out a few more things, it might,
I think it would-
the impact of that
The
might
impact would
go.
be huge. Because I think the DECA would fit under recognition. I think there's enough room to say how many went forward. And how it's increased every year, and then to actually get into the meat for the tests. Just an idea.
No, it's a good idea.
I just remember all the parents' reaction at the meeting.
Allison, did you have any more
They were so
thoughts?
impressed by
As our fresh eyes?
Not a thought, but a question. Would that be graphically in a table, or would it be as part of the narrative? 'Cause feel
I
like
was
the
thinking
table
it's a
is-
table. You don't
yeah.
think the table? I do think
No,
the
I
table.
do think a table.
I think the table was very impressive. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
really stood
I agree.
out,
Yeah.
the percentages.
I agree.
I go around bragging about that all the time to people who don't really listen to me, but, you know, like, don't even have kids
now-
invested in the school system, like, "Oh, our school system's so fabulous, and I go on about the percentages, and.
Now you can take
it
a
was-
handout with you.
I probably should.
Well, I think it really shows the well-rounded student.
Correct.
When you look at all of the different opportunities through clubs, activities, through the academics, through athletics, through the arts. It's all there.
Yes, it's all inclusive. Yep. I'm very impressed with that whole testing.
Well, and the OECD test was, we didn't cherry pick students
No.
from, there
No.
was a random selection of 15-year-olds, and they all have different abilities and talents and strengths and weaknesses, and they all did really well. You know, so.
That was most impressive, that
Yeah.
they weren't handpicked.
Right.
Could have been any level.
And we spend a lot of time speaking about this here, and there's some people who watch at home, but there's a lot more people who don't get to hear that stuff, so when you have it in a digestible way like this, I think it's really helpful.
I'm a visual, so
Yeah.
it really,
Or if you hear it once, you might not remember the specifics, but if you have something in your hand,
Tangible,
you can
right,
go back
something
to it
tangible.
and.
Yep.
Exactly.
Any other feedback?
You know, I haven't thought about this for more than 10 seconds, but just Allison's thought, or Allison's point about people seeing this who might not otherwise pay attention to our meetings or have opportunity to see our meetings, makes me wonder, of course, you have to be careful what you ask for, but I wonder if we should consider at some point putting on there, you know, if you have feedback, if you're a community member, not involved with the schools, you get this, I'd love to know what their reaction is. You know, if they like it, don't like it, have questions, what makes sense. We could almost put a little, is there something on there?
There's contact information.
Yeah, there is contact information. Yep, I mean, I certainly could get in touch. I almost picture on the back of the flap, you know, where we put the schools or something, you know, feedback to this email address or to this site or something, just to, as I say, be careful what you ask for, I suppose. But, you know, if the community isn't finding it valuable, if there's something they'd like to see differently, then that'd be a way to find out. But
Sure.
just,
Definitely.
we can noodle on that one.
Okay.
I think it's great.
Okay. All right.
Other comments or thoughts for Amy and Allison?
Just thank you for all your hard work on it. It's
Do
very
you
good.
end up doing that yourself, or do you get help?
No, do it.
How many hours does it take you to do that?
It doesn't take as long from the very first time that we did
first
that,
time.
because I went through so many different renditions, and then finally, when we came to that format that looked more infographic-based, something that you could really visualize, that was when you're like, okay, now, this makes sense, and this is something that's going to be visually, hopefully appealing.
Well, are you comfortable that it's worth your time putting that together?
Well, it'll be Allison's time next.
Well, do you
Allison, are
feel
you
comfortable?
So comfortable. Anything that can share widely and quickly all of the wonderful things that are happening here, it's always worth the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And honestly,
Wraps
I
everything
love doing that kind of stuff. It's the creative side when you're able to start thinking about how can we share, and then tables and charts. We get a little bit nerdy with that.
A little mathy,
We
it's
like
fun.
that stuff.
Do we put this on the website?
Yes.
After, yeah, that's what I thought we did. So if you had it and accidentally recycled it and said, ooh, I want to go back and
The main
look
page.
something up, we can just go to the main page.
Is this mine?
Some of us are aggressive recyclers around our house. I'm not saying it's me, but it's me.
All right, great. Thank you. Looks great.
Okay.
Thanks for getting that out.
Excellent.
And for all the realtors out there,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have a new tool soon.
Right, exactly.
They were being sent to, isn't that what we had decided last time, it was being sent to all the realtors?
Any post.
Anyone.
It goes,
Any PO
yeah,
box.
goes to everybody.
Okay. Moving right along, shall we invite Mr. Heyer to join us?
Yes, and I'm going to join him at the guest table,
All
being
right.
that this is the work that we've been, and we have some of our fabulous technology steering committee members here.
I see them back there. So this is our new 2017-2020 technology plan.
Moving.
So myself and Mr. Heyer, we co-chair the technology steering committee. But we have, I want to go ahead and acknowledge Erica Spitz, who's first grade at the IGO. She's on the technology steering committee. Darlene Reed, our elementary technology integration specialist. Julia Greenstein, K-12 technology integrator here at the high school, but also over assessment as well. We have Sue Abrams, who's on the technology steering committee as the middle school administrator. Diana Myers-Packla as a high school administrator. Did I miss anyone first? And Shannon as our high school representative she's on everything.
I was just gonna say, isn't she on every board?
Which is
How do you
awesome.
have time to teach?
On technology steering committee. Because as we get into this plan and talk about the development and the process of it, if they have things that they want to chime in with, or if you want specific questions, I would suggest asking them, because they've been a really important part of this process. So what we wanted to do was to go back and talk about why we're at the point that we are. And so we just really have about 6 or 7 slides to go through. The process itself, as we've talked about before, and especially for those at home that might not be aware, we had a 5-year technology plan that was intended to go through this current school year being the 5th year, but we completed that 5-year plan in 4 years. And we also have a new strategic plan, as we've mentioned previously tonight, which is 2017 through 2020, a 3-year plan. So what we did during the summer is we developed really our focus kind of questions for the technology plan, the development of that plan, using the strategic plan, since that was newly developed. And really, they really work in tandem with each other. And then beginning in August at our administrative retreat, where we have all of the central office members, we have the technology integration specialists, we have team chairs, we have about 28 of us that worked together. And then we did a lot of work kind of looking at what are some major themes that we needed to focus on. What are the challenges in technology? What do we see for education looking 5 years, 10 years out? We don't have a crystal ball, but at the same time, what do we see as implications for our teaching and learning and our instruction in the classrooms? And so really looking at that. We also looked at our current district initiatives that are taking place, recommendations that have come out of like the business technology curriculum review process, other initiatives that are ongoing within the district, and then we wanted to hear from other stakeholders, our students, our teachers, and our parents. So Erin and I ran focus groups in the fall to really solicit that information to see if we're capturing everything that we had been working on so far, and to be able to incorporate that into the plan. As far as the technology steering committee, it's representative of the entire district, from teachers to administrators at all levels. And we work to look at what are the implications for technology in teaching and learning, and being the unit that we can put that information back out to the district. We can plan whether it's professional development or looking at curriculum and instruction. So that committee used the SWOT analysis, which is a technique for really identifying what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and then importantly, identifying what are our opportunities and thinking about threats. That's the process we use for the strategic planning process. It works really well. We use a lot of information, and we use that analysis strategy in order to develop the draft of the plan that we have here this evening. We also looked at current research in technology, instruction, and education, the new standards for the ISTE standards, the international standards for teaching, which was in 2016. We talked about that during the technology business review, curriculum review. Our internal data sources, things such as when we've talked about dark days, how often are labs being used? How often are our laptop carts being used? What's being used more? Looking at our refresh cycles with computers, and what do we need to be thinking about as far as other technologies, assistive technologies. We looked at the Massachusetts Local Technology Planning Guidelines, and then we looked at Future Ready Schools. So a lot of sources went into the draft that you have before you this evening. At the same time, we looked at having that plan be a 3-year plan, not a 5-year plan, with the idea that when the strategic plan in 2020, we start to work on the next one, that we're going to combine the two into one plan. We did a preview back in the fall of our 5 themes, so what we wanted to do was to highlight what those are, what it looks like as far as goals and strategies, and then see what questions or feedback you have for us.
So again, when we met this fall, we talked a lot about the changes in technology planning and how quick technology changes and how difficult that can make it for us to keep up with what is current and what is relevant. We also talked about technology not being something that is additional. It's not extra anymore. It's very much part of our instructional program and our instructional practices here in the Foxborough Public Schools. So with that, again, shifting to a 3-year plan that coincides with the strategic plan makes a lot of sense. And you'll see that there's a lot of synergy between these two plans. Previously, in our instructional technology planning and our technology planning process, many of the things that you see now that are just part of the strategic plan would have been specifically part of the technology plan. Now, again, because technology is just common practice in our instruction, it's part of good instruction, and it's being used in the schools. It's now found in the strategic plan and not specifically a technology planning item. Again, the process used very similar and with a lot of synergy. And again, wanting to focus this plan in on a 3-year plan, focusing in on the gaps in terms of the technology items that are not addressed in the strategic plan. So you'll see that this plan is quite focused on those areas. So again, just reviewing our vision, this is something, again, that was part of the planning process and was reviewed with all of our stakeholders. We have, again, a great committee with a lot of different perspective. So again, the vision, the Foxborough Public Schools envisions an innovative pre-K-12 learning environment in which technologies enhance teaching and learning and the development of responsible global citizens. This environment personalizes learning and cultivates global connections through dynamic and authentic learning experiences that maximize students' growth and prepare them to thrive in a competitive global society.
So when we look at our 5 themes, these are the themes that were really identified as areas that were broad, and then we looked at what do we mean by each of those. So the first one, looking at the integration of technology in our teaching and learning and technology literacy, professional development, global information and communication. You're going to see some of those connections with the strategic plan, particularly there, and then accessibility to relevant technology, and then again, privacy and security. There is a lot that has changed since the development of our first the technology plan 4 years ago, when we look at student privacy and security and what we need to be thinking about and preparing for. So if we go to the first theme, the first objective there, looking at technology integration and literacy, it's to advance the academic mission of the Foxborough Public Schools through innovative and effective technologies resources, and services. So this is really looking at our curriculum, our instruction, and what we're doing in the classroom when we're integrating technology. We want to make sure that it is very thoughtful and it is purposely planned as far as the integration of technology into the content of what is taking place for the learning experiences with our students. It's seamless in that it is not an add-on. It makes sense. It's intertwined. It's used to be able to enhance the educational experience. So when we look, for an example, a strategy in order to meet that first goal, we're looking at what we've talked about before in how we're integrating the technology. We use the framework of the SAMR model, SAMR, so that is looking at whether we're just substituting, that's the S, if it were something that we were writing on paper and now we're using Microsoft Word. That's just substituting and using something that's going to be able to provide a substitution, but it's really not changing the the enhancement of the student. And the A is looking at augmentation. That's really has a functional improvement. The M is looking at modification. It's a significant task that's redesigned. And then when we look at reformation, it's being reformed in a way that it has an impact. It does something that we weren't able to do before. So we want to make sure that we're very thoughtful and we have a purpose when we're using technology. And that was something that came out loud and clear in the parent focus group. They wanted to see that it had a purpose, that it wasn't just for technology's sake, and that they don't want students too much screen time. They want a balance that's there. And that was a big part of our conversation. And why are we using technology? Is it just to consume, or are we using it to create and really make a difference in something that we weren't able to do before? So the second goal there, again, enhancing the educational experience. Blended learning opportunities would be an example of that. The third goal, evaluating and implementing new technologies to improve teaching and learning. So we're looking at, again, new technologies, because technology is always changing. Is there a better way of meeting the needs of our students, or providing a technology that's going to be able to give them a different experience? And we have so many digital resources and so many other things that we can use to enhance our instruction. What might that look like? And constantly thinking about how we can do that, going back to, a purposeful and meaningful way.
So to provide technology services that enhance teaching and learning and foster curricular innovation, as well as implement technologies that improve teaching and learning, we're really looking at deeper learning. How do we activate the ability to access much deeper learning? And this is what we talk about when we say 21st century learning. Sometimes it's the buzzword for deeper learning. We're also looking for ways to constantly personalize learning, to make sure that the technology we use is relevant and it applies to what we're doing, and that it can inform our instruction, that it may produce data that informs our instruction as well.
Some of the things that I wanted to just point out that came out from students, in addition to the parent focus groups, is when we look at things like within the Office 365 platform, the collaborative learning and projects teams, that was something that parents really felt was very beneficial to their students, and having the opportunity to connect and collaborate with each other. The high school students and meeting with them. They said at the beginning of the school year it was a little rocky, but once they were able to get on to Teams, which is this online collaborative learning environment where they can share their documents and get feedback from their teachers, that they really saw the value. Parents said the same thing. They talked about, even at the middle school level, the feedback that teachers are providing with pieces of writing, immediate. They can see it right away. They're not waiting, and they can have conversations in real time about their writing. So it provides something that they're going to be using as they continue on with their educational experience here, but definitely once they leave Foxborough High School. So the emphasis on teams, media literacy was something that was a topic that our high school students as well as our middle school students talked about, being able to be literate with all of the different modes of communication that come their way, the resources that they use, and again, going back to balance, using it when it's going to really enhance the learning and not just for technology's sake. So that's the first of the objectives and goals, but it's a really meaty one. So I wanted to make sure to kind of point out some of those key pieces. And the last one, when it comes to this, I know that we've talked about at this table, are keyboarding skills. Even our middle school students talked about, when I was meeting with all of them and taking notes on the laptop, one of the students said, we want to do what you're doing. You're not looking at the keyboard. You have those keyboarding skills, which we looked at our curriculum. We now have brought that down, as you know, to 3rd and 4th grade. And so having them talk about their keyboarding in 5th and 6th grade and the curriculum program that they've used and looking at what the elementary one looks like, they were really insightful in how those programs worked, to the point we're now looking at, with 3rd and 4th graders coming up with the skills where they will be in looking at that data at different points during the year. How is that going to impact our 5th and 6th grade keyboarding?
Too, as Amy highlighted already, that technology is giving us the ability to really implement this flexible learning, this anytime, anywhere learning. She used the example within teams of a teacher being able to give a high school student feedback through recorded audio on a paper, so being able to provide some notes, but then also provide that audio feedback, which can be difficult sometimes to get in within the classroom, and then have the student be able to have that conversation really anytime and anywhere.
The second one I'll go through pretty quickly here. This is on professional development, and really the goal here is to make sure that we're being attentive to the varying levels of proficiency with teachers and with students. We know that we have some of our early adopters, people that jump on to things right away, and they're the ones that then get the excitement and have others that want to follow. So we need to make sure that the professional development that we're offering, just as we differentiate in the classroom, that we're differentiating the professional development for our educators. At the same time, for instance, the Teams example, that's for students who have email addresses, so you're talking middle school and high school. But what does that look like for an elementary teacher who's not using Teams with their students by not having the email addresses, but still are using those collaborative tools as with their colleagues? So we want to make sure that the professional development is timely, that we're flexible in what that looks like, that we differentiate that, and at the same time that we're being efficient in modes of things that could be done in a technology format, such as our online learning management system, that's more of your nuts and bolts, and not taking, say, time on our professional development days for those kinds of things that can be done anytime, anywhere. And again, modeling that for our teachers as we would want them to do with our students.
This really is a good example of practicing what we preach in terms of providing that flexible, anytime, anywhere learning opportunities for our staff, along with that personalized, differentiated learning. So again, it's a great opportunity for us to be examples and to coach and model what it is good instruction looks like.
And I think a really good concrete example here too is we've talked about the new standards for students, what the expectations for technology proficiency is for them when they leave a grade level, and to make sure that we've provided professional development for our educators to ensure that those expectations are applied throughout their curriculum areas. That's something that came up too with parents in the parent focus group. They want to know, what are the expectations for my first grader when it comes to technology skills? What is the expectation for my 5th grader when it comes to technology? So one of the strategies here that connects to actually both of these first two objectives is communicating that, making sure that it's within our curriculum, that we have the support that's there, but we're communicating it with parents too, so they have an understanding that the expectation for a 1st grader looks like this. The expectation for a 7th grader looks like this. The third theme here, looking at global information and communication, if you look at those 4 goals, they really are looking at how we are providing opportunities to engage students in a way that their learning experiences move outside of Foxborough and the classroom, and they're connecting. If you think back to our last teaching and learning highlight with our students and what they've done with the Ukraine, I think that's an excellent example of how that is from the strategic plan, but it really is here in this technology plan, and using the technology to be able to have students understand what it looks like across cultures, how to use it to investigate and have opportunities in our global society and what they can do to make a difference as far as looking at the curriculum they have here and what it looks like much broader. The last one, they're leveraging social media and the web and mobile technologies in a way that we're providing a consistent and effective experience to content with students. There's a lot with digital citizenship that we've talked about here and what that looks like and how it changes within social media and different platforms on the web. We have that in our curriculum, but we're looking back to that and how that changes and making sure that we're being responsive to the changes and trying to keep up as much as we can, but make sure it aligns and that we've got that vertical articulation when we're talking about digital citizen and being a good global citizen online.
Moving on to objective 4, access to relevant technology. So ensuring that the Foxborough Public Schools have the infrastructure, staffing, and equipment to meet academic needs for effective and efficient operations. So in terms of objective 4, this was one of the last themes in which we worked on, and that's because this objective is really quite informed by the instructional program. So our instructional program drives our technology and technology infrastructure needs. So in terms of ensuring that we have planning for future, for current and future financing to support our district's technology plan. This is something in which we do by fostering community partnerships, communicating out our technology needs through the capital plan and by proposing a yearly capital plan to the town, as well as seeking funding from state, federal, and private resources as well. Maximizing access to the curriculum for all students, leveraging universal design principles and appropriate assistive technology. So when we talk about personalized learning, this is something which is a regular ed strategy in which we can use technology to really personalize learning, to help deepen the learning in which a student is able to achieve. In terms of our regular ed accommodation plan, there are many things that technology now in which technology allows us to now offer to all students. So for instance, built into Microsoft Office 365 is both text to speech and speech to text. In the past, this type of technology was generally unavailable to general ed students, was cost prohibitive, and was really more specialized and offered for special ed students as a special ed accommodation. So now this technology is now available to all students. So again, helping us maximize access to the curriculum, but also just being able to reach out to the different and connect to students with different learning modalities and allowing us to access those as well. In terms of communicating the district's master staffing plan and our technology needs and needs for our infrastructure, again, we have put together a master staffing plan. It looks at our ability to provide support that is effective and in line with our needs of our instructional program, and we'll continue to do that. So our goal previously was to have an instructional technologist at each grade level, and we were able to meet that goal, and we'll continue to evaluate whether that is meeting our needs moving into the future. Also evaluating what it is we offer in terms of a support program. So we're lucky to have a great partnership with our town, which allows us to offer a very competitive support offering in terms of technicians and that are able to attend to people's needs in a timely manner, which allows them to continue to leverage technology in a way that improves teaching and learning.
And then our last one, looking at safety, security, and data retention, continue the process for evaluating the use of technology to inform teaching and learning and to provide a safe and secure environment. So our goals here, when you look at this, it really speaks to the data systems. Again, keeping our students safe online and having procedures and guidelines in place to ensure the security and privacy of students and how we store that information, the products and the software licenses that we have, and then implementing a mass communication strategy to better communicate with stakeholder groups and the community. And we've talked a lot about a new website platform. That falls underneath this last one. And I know Erin can speak to that, but I think that that's one when we talk about it's important to have the data and security and all of that, but at the same time, the communication piece. And what are other ways that we can communicate information and use the website, not website, but the web presence, as he'll delineate here. But what are those opportunities that we currently don't have with our website and by moving to a web presence?
So safety, security, and data retention. So this has been propelled into the news. It's something that I think we've all has affected us all, and we're all familiar with. So really, starting with defining a process in which we communicate to parents and students what information it is we collect and how it's used and how it's stored, and keeping that information safe and being good stewards of it. So this is ensuring that we have strong data governance policies that enforce data privacy and safety of all confidential data that we keep. This also, one of the things that we've also talked a lot about is defining technology literacy. But now we're really talking about data literacy as two separate items, related but separate. So using data and the data that we have available to us to really inform instruction and make sound instructional decisions. And this is something that we do every day. This isn't new to us, but really defining what that looks like and how to use the different tools and systems we have available to us and using them to the maximum potential to really inform outcomes and hopefully be able to improve instruction and student learning outcomes as well. Some of the strategies here are develop and implement a protocol for maintaining and updating current student privacy database of online tools. So one of the big initiatives that was taken on by our wonderful instructional technology team was evaluating, working with teachers, building a database of all of the instructional tools that we have online that teachers are using, reviewing those tools with teachers, looking at things like the terms of service and the student privacy policies, and creating a database in which teachers can easily decode, for instance, when to ask for parent permission or when parent permission is required to use a resource. Or if a resource is appropriate to use with students. So continuing to update this database. The tools change so quickly, so this is quite the task. But continue to update this database so that teachers can have a tool to help decode some of this information, which can be difficult to decode. But also, at the same time, building that competency within our instructional staff so that they can look at a resource and know what to look for in terms of keeping their students' data safe and their students safe online as well. Revising our digital citizenship curriculum, we talked about that a little bit earlier in terms of things change so quickly. So 12 years ago, we may have been talking about a different set of social media tools and threats, and different concerns around student privacy and data. So keeping up with that. One of the significant changes is reviewing our policies. That includes updating our acceptable use policy. So there's a shift now from the term acceptable use policy to responsible use policy. So we'll be reviewing our technology use policies here in the coming months, hopefully for next year, in which we'll be talking to students about the responsible use of technology and how to use technology responsible. So it's a shift from what you can't do to what you can do or what you should be doing. So that's a significant change in terms of the thoughts, the pedagogy, and the culture in which we use with students in terms of talking about using technology. And it's applicable to how they use technology outside of school as well. Providing access to digital environments that enable teachers to collect and analyze multiple data sets to inform their teaching and learning. There's a number of systems in which we have in place. Foxboro, I think we've come to know, is quite cutting edge in terms of their use of data, and that doesn't necessarily mean the technology tools we use, but really looking at data and analyzing tools and identifying tools that do support good, sound instructional decision-making using student data that allows us, again, to personalize student data and to deepen learning. Okay.
So those are the 5, and you have the goals and all of the strategies that we didn't have all the strategies there, but wanted just to put the overarching goals. We know that we have some font as far as issues within the document itself, being that we used Teams and we did all of this online collaboratively with our technology steering, and then we ended up having some power issues and internet. The fonts when this went out were not completely consistent, right?
One of the pitfalls of having 12 or 14 people editing a document all at the same time is that you can have some issues with formatting and fonts, obviously.
Yeah. But it is a draft, so we can fix that up.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Is that it? Comments, thoughts?
That it.
Well, I want to make sure I was the it of the presentation.
That was a fantastic presentation.
Very
right?
thorough. Very thorough.
We accomplished
you
so
for that
much,
work.
and there's so much to this plan. It's really impressive what you guys have done. It really is.
I don't know if there was any comments from any of our members from tech steering as far as the process or that they wanted to make.
Did I miss anything?
Good. Thank you all for your hard work putting this together.
But, you know, I look at this with my IBM hat on and what we talk to schools about, and you guys are hitting all the key topics, right? Not a surprise, but, you know, data retention strategies, I don't remember us talking about that a whole lot in the past. That's a very significant topic now, as Aaron talked about, and, you know, personalizing instruction, and I kept looking for references to teacher tools, which are there, you know, because teacher tools are really the key, I think, to having technology enhance instruction. And of course, we've always been very good with Amy's leadership on professional development to support the staff and the instructional specialists who, whenever I talk to school districts around the country, I always say they're worth their weight in gold, probably more. So thank you for what you guys do. But to me, you know, everything you could want is up there. Now it's just a matter of how do we execute on all of it, right? To Tina's point, is that it? Yeah. So is there any more help you need, Aaron? I mean, if you look at, since you've come here and where we are, you know, and we've shortened the duration of these plans because we're moving so quickly on them, so now it's a 3-year plan, but is there anything you want to ask the committee for, or anything you want to reflect on from?
Well, I think we're lucky to have an incredibly sound technology team here, starting with our instructional technology team. It wouldn't matter how much equipment we had or what access to software or budgetary resources we had if we didn't have them helping us move forward instructionally and being good coaches and models for our staff. And really, the staff that we have being so receptive to the use of technology and cutting edge, and often bringing to our attention new tools or things that they found, which and then we plan for supporting in terms of infrastructure. So really having a sound implementation methodology and evaluation methodology here, which allows us to identify a need, identify a solution for that need, and then allowing us to plan for hardware and infrastructure to allow that to happen. So it's simply a process that helps us maintain an effective technology program. In terms of resources, technology is ever changing. I don't know if we can ever have enough staff or enough resources, but we're fortunate to have a supportive community which does provide for our support for our technology program, whether it's the capital plan or the community partnerships in which we talked about a little bit earlier. In terms of what I could ask for, again, an incredibly supportive committee. I think, you know, it starts from the top down. in terms of Amy's leadership and her ability really even to model as a leader the use of effective technology. It really is quite amazing. And I can say that about many of our administrators and our staff members. So in terms of what I could ask for, again, your continued support, the continued support of the community, and really just to keep going and working with teachers and doing what we're doing.
Good. Good.
I would just say quickly that it was my first time at the tech steering committee right before this. And to your point of now we have to execute it. We finished the last plan early. There are a lot of things already happening that are here that are impressive and that are already changing things for students. So I was so pleased to join that committee, which people don't always say that. So it's really good work.
Any other questions, or can we let these people go home?
Thank you.
I would just say, thank you, and Aaron and team, it is a great job. Sue, Diana, your leadership, all the building administrators. We really appreciate this, and this is a true differentiator for us. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have, right? And you guys are doing a great job with it, so thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Amy, do you want us to approve this tonight?
If you feel so inclined, it's draft form, it's really more just double crossing for any typos or font changes, so.
Is the committee comfortable approving it tonight?
I'm comfortable.
I would like to recommend that we approve the technology plan as, the 3-year technology plan as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you for all
Now
your
get back
hard
to
work,
work.
guys.
Now go home.
Don't
Now
st-
go home first. and
Don't
then-
stop doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Aaron.
While we're changing gears, I just want to reflect, our children are the same age, so we have seniors in high school, and they change from what the kids are doing now in kindergarten and first grade, from when ours were in kindergarten and first grade, through what they're doing now in the classroom, in terms of teams and the collaboration and the way that they are being tested, and it's just amazing, and it's really incredible, and a lot of it has happened really in the last 6 years, but it has been an evolution over the last 12 years that my children have been in Foxborough Public Schools. It's pretty cool.
I keep them thinking of the strategic planning board, and that's all we kept saying. It's got to be tech. It's got to be about technology,
Right.
technology, and it's just been
Mm-hmm.
soaring
You're right.
forward since that.
Going back to the first
original one.
strategic plan, yeah.
When you have students that are saying in a focus group that I want to be able to get to Teams and have that work on my phone because they're connecting different ways, that's a very different conversation than it has been in the past.
Well, it also, though, takes willingness to provide the forum for the kids to give you that, because that creates more to-dos for our team. But the fact that we're willing to go do that and say, what else do you want? Because you're going to get requests like that, I think is bold,
Very
but
admirable.
right.
I do have to say that the focus groups with the students were my absolute favorite part of the process.
That's the best feedback you can get.
They're just really insightful
Oh,
in,
yeah.
in the way they think about their learning and what works and what doesn't, and they give us some things to really think about how can we make that work differently.
It's great.
It's good.
All right, good job. Okay, our budget public hearing and vote of recommendation. We've been talking about the budget for several meetings now with Bill's help. And tonight is our official public hearing. And if the committee is ready, we'll take a vote on our request for FY19 budget.
Yeah, so as you know, the budget increase is $901,521 to bring the total up to $34,991,125. It's a 2.64% increase over FY18. Our staffing changes that we are proposing really are around student services mostly in the SPED area or counseling and things of that nature. It's not really in trying to change our core curriculum areas. It's really the support areas that need to be given a little bit more, and a lot of that has to do with caseloads. So it's not, again, something we would just like to do. Most of them are items that, quite honestly, are either state or federally mandated. So, I think we take that very seriously as to what we have to do and make sure we're meeting our requirements. You also know we've made some adjustments where we've made some decreases based on the enrollments. As I said, before we even started this process nearly a month ago, the biggest concern we have is obviously what our student enrollments will be going forward. We have been on a steady trend going down. I truly believe next year is going to be the reversal of that. A lot of the developments we talked about are all coming to fruition. We are looking at potentially making a minor, very minor redistricting change just to make sure that we can keep the schools in a level playing field. But again, that's all going to be based on how many kids will end up in each grade and some teacher stress that we might have as far as class sizes in certain areas that we may have to adjust. But we think we can handle it within this budget process itself. And again, we don't have, at this point, visibility to retirements. So it is always our one scary thing. We've been fortunate the last couple of years to have higher retirements than we expected. But we need to make up $125,000 within this budget, which typically is 5 teaching retirements. And at this point, we have none. So that's a little bit bothersome, but.
We also have a younger staff too.
No, typically we've had at least 1, maybe 2 that they're kind of in the
Well, I guess what I mean is,
at least we have a clue of them, but.
I guess what I mean is procedurally.
Oh, yes,
this is
timing-wise, it is
always
what
a
it
bit
is.
of a wild
Yes,
card at
yeah.
this time, right?
And quite honestly, some don't make the decision until the end of the year, and some are in the process of thinking now and starting their planning. But so again, it's just a bookmark that we all have to keep, in our mind that this budget accounts on that happening. I think in open transparency, this is something we just need to be aware of. So unless the committee has any other questions on the main budget, we have made no changes since the original draft that was submitted to you back on December 18th. We feel fairly comfortable that everything is staying status.
Bill, just to play out that scenario, just because we were talking about it, let's say that no one retired.
Mm-hmm.
Because you say this budget's built on 5 retirements roughly. What would happen then?
We'd have to look across our budget lines and basically determine where we would have to make cuts within the budget and what we'd have to do without for a given year.
It's not like we would look to raise the budget, we would look to reappropriate.
No, I mean, I think the assumption is that we would have to figure out how to learn, live within our own means. That's always been the case. Now, as I've said in the past, the one saving grace that we have, and only a few other departments in town have it, is the fact that we do have revolving accounts and, some tuition accounts that are left over and stuff that we can tap into, but that's kind of borrowing from tomorrow to pay today. So, but it is something we have at least as a resource that many other departments don't have.
So to your point that this is the same that we've been talking about, no changes, has anyone on the committee gotten any feedback from anyone in the public about the budget process, or?
No.
No, I haven't either.
No.
So I have to take that to mean that the community, to the extent they're interested at this point, are comfortable with what we've been presenting the last several meetings in public. I'm very comfortable proposing that we vote on the budget tonight. Is everybody else okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Any further questions for Bill before we do that? Or Amy? Or any really hard ones for Allison? This is a fun part too.
Yeah, we'll have to think up a hard one for Allison someday. Make sure her initiation is complete.
Always try to make it some fun.
It's great, interesting.
Who was on the budget subcommittee? Tina?
And Marilyn.
And Marilyn.
Yep.
One of you want to make the recommendation?
I would like to make the recommendation to accept our budget as.
In the amount of.
And the amount of, what's the exact number?
$34,991,125.
34, just give me the thing in front of me, please. 'Cause I don't have it in front of me. I'm not gonna memorize that, sorry. I'm not that good. 34,991,125, as presented by Bill Yukno. For the FY9 budget.
I'd like to second that. I think somebody outside, it has been it doesn't really matter, but it has been sometimes people who have not been on the committee itself to to go ahead and do it. So I think one
By all
person who was
means.
not on the committee should at least second it.
Then you should
Oh,
second it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Bill.
Okay, and the capital improvement plan, so.
Yes, as you'll notice in your packets, I made one change to the capital improvement plan, and that was that we had, that I missed this on the first draft around. I've added the replacement of one pickup truck for the maintenance department. Fortunately, over the last 4 years, we've been able to replace or augment our vehicles within our budget, and really, we went outside one time for a capital side, and the town supported a van for one of the maintenance people as well. This happens to be a 1998 pickup truck. It was a truck that was repurposed from the DPW years ago. It, amazingly, I mean, from a safety point of view, it just has issues. It's got 133,000 miles. It's time, probably beyond time, to be honest with you. So, no matter how we do it, whether it comes through funding on the CIP side, or we were able to find some money within our budget at the end of the year, it has to be considered by the CIP committee to be able to even do that. So
Because of the dollar amount.
because of the dollar amount of being over 25,000. So, again, that's why I've added it. So the items that we're looking at are our $190,000 for the computer software, hardware, networks. As you know, that title got expanded a few years ago. It used to be just computer replacements. Well, unfortunately now, or fortunately now, we have data centers, we have, switch gear, we have a lot of equipment, wireless stuff that's around the buildings. So we're not just replacing computers anymore, we're replacing a lot of different components. So that's where that 190 goes. The buses, again, we've been in a constant rotation between full-size and our minibus groupings. So we have two full-size buses, 77 passengers, and one debatable whether it be 27 or 35. Really depends on what comes out of the bidding process for us. Ironically, that bus is almost as expensive as the 77, but the reality is, for the way we use them, the smaller buses are much more practical as far as moving around, with the kids that we have and with the different programs we use. It's not just, some people refer to them as a sped bus, but it's not. It really is used for so many different things. Teams go on them, if it's a smaller team, if it's a debate team, if it's, things like that. A lot of people use these buses, so the smaller ones sometimes are just much easier to get around if we're going into the city or so.
Can I just interrupt? Why are these almost as much as?
It's just, well, when you really think about it, though,
The wheelchair?
ironically, it's an identical bus, just shorter. Our spec for our minibuses is not a van-style bus. It's got the same engine, drivetrain, wheelbase. It just happens to be shorter in its distance, so there's not really a lot of savings for the bus company.
Right.
And the reality
Right,
is they
right.
make a lot more 77s than they make of the smaller size and what they sell.
Okay,
So again, your
that
price
makes sense,
components
yep.
also get you.
Thank
We
you.
do trade in all the vehicles that we have, although I have been working with Roger at the DPW, because sometimes the auctions that he does actually generate better money. So we're looking at some of the, potentially what he could get for it versus what we trade in, and whichever gives us the best, then we'll go that direction. The copier replacement, we continue obviously to make paper a necessity in the district, I guess. But, it's used in all senses, and all of our copiers are fully networked. They scan, they do everything. So it gives a lot more capability as far as how our teachers are able to use these. But we've also been on a cycle of having a 3-year maintenance on them. But by the time we get to about the 4th year, we're usually about about $1.2 million to $1.5 million in copies, which is really the life cycle of these machines. Then you get into a lot of maintenance, and quite honestly, you spend more in maintenance than the machines are worth. So this has worked out very well for us. We typically will replace a few during the summer and then keep a few back for during the year so we can find out if we have a problem, and we always do, and then replace it during the year as we go.
But these are the buses and the copiers. They're the cyclical thing that.
Actually, the
the
top ones up to this point,
Right.
the computer, the buses, and the copiers are a program basis. And again, it's important because if you decide to stop this, then all you're doing is building up a backlog for a future problem. And,
Absolutely.
you know, so you really, yes, could you buy a year if you had a lean year? You could, but you're going to pay for it
down the
down
road.
the road,
Right,
and it's going to
right.
be more expensive. Where this way, we've been into kind of an anticipated and an expected, you know, level.
And it avoids emergencies.
Correct.
Well, and you could take a really big hit
Right.
if you put it off.
Right,
you know,
which is a lot,
without
I'll be honest with you, a
maintenance
lot of districts, you know, that aren't fortunate enough to have the support that we've had, they do that, and then they end up going, sometimes they bond it within purchasing of, you know, buildings and stuff like that, and you're paying interest on top of it, which is significantly higher. It's not really the right way to do it. Plus, the issue, and as both Amy and Aaron were saying, technology is changing so fast that if you don't make constant modifications to what you're offering, you're going to end up with such a big hit when you
Right.
finally do it that's what would be more devastating to us. The other component is this whole thing with storage and you know, the bandwidths and stuff like that has changed so significantly that's a growing piece within our back rooms that nobody even really sees or knows about. But we have to maintain it. And you know, we have been very fortunate with our relationship with the town that we do everything together. But all of our stuff gets stressed together. So it's one of those things that we try to keep up on as best we can. You did have the presentation by Cammie and her staff on the music equipment. This was one component or one section in the percussion area for $26,000. Again, they will probably come forward with another program in 2 to 3 years that is for other parts of the band equipment. They're doing a great job of actually kind of, you know, assessing what the equipment is that needs to be worked on and you know, where we're going with it. But we haven't done anything in probably close to 15 years of any major thing on the high school level. So I think it's an important area, and again, you know, it's one that's similar to the way I look at what we did with the Ahern when we did its keyboarding area over.
Well, speaking of keyboarding, I thought you asked Cammie a very good question, and I am wondering if they're buying keyboards for the new piano class, if that expense should be folded into this capital.
I don't think they're buying, they can't be buying that many, and keyboards in general aren't as expensive.
Okay.
The issue that made the keyboarding
Well, it's the marimba
component-
made this a big
Well, but the
purchase.
thing that made the component one at the Ahern so large was
Yeah.
it's a fully computerized, synchronized system, where these wouldn't be. Obviously, you don't, you know, that's not how you would teach somebody in the piano
Right,
side, because
no.
they'd all be going at different paces. So I think that's why that's huge. That's really
Music lab
yes,
experience.
it's a technology. That's a technology-driven music lab.
No,
So-
that I understand, but I guess I don't have a sense of, are we spending $400 or $4,000 on keyboards? And if it's $4,000, maybe it should be added to this capital
I have to assume
expenditure.
at this point, because they haven't even raised it to me,
Yeah.
that they've got it figured out within
Within
their
their
budget.
budget.
Okay.
I was thinking.
So
Yeah, we should
otherwise,
present
I
it.
would think so,
would've
but I just,
expected to have heard about it.
before we
So-
approve it,
Right.
maybe, I don't know. but-
Yeah, she didn't specify that, and I was curious about that also.
Well, I just
Where it
don't
was
have
coming
a.
from.
They figured
must
they
have it in
have
their
it
budget.
handled.
Gave her the
I don't-
opportunity, I
I-
guess.
I
was just
You
gonna tell you that.
gave her the opening, I
Yes,
just,
did.
just,
So-
you
You
gave her
absolutely
the
did.
opening, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear before we,
I think you
take
were very
this to
clear saying it was-
CIP.
What's your budget?
Okay.
Again, the maintenance truck we got there. So then the piece that we've talked about, and we had on last year's CIP, was the 8-lane track and the bleachers and press box to complete the athletic complex here at the high school. You know, I think it's an important component. It will more than likely end up on the annual warrant as a separate article from the general CIP article. Which I think we should be fine with. It is, you know, it does warrant that level of review and scrutiny. What I would hope truly is if in any way they decided not to do the full thing, that they would at least do a piece of it and move forward. But I think, you know, again, everything we've heard is that this could be the right year to do it and get it done. It is something that, again, I know the question that was raised was on the ability to do fundraising for it, and I think we did answer that question, because there's been a couple fundraisers, but you're not going to raise $1.1 million in
Good heavens.
you know, building this in any time frame that will help the overall. And again, I really am pushing to have the track, because if I can do the track and the concessions at the same time, I can be 1,000% sure that everything is coordinated appropriately.
Right.
I mean, I've had civil engineers do it and stuff, but I've been involved in too many building projects to know that you can make a mistake and it could be too costly down the road.
So track before bleachers, if
Absolutely.
we had to separate
Absolutely.
them. If we were able to get the whole thing through, it is something that we're able to not take a loan, to pay for from town revenue.
Yeah,
without
the
taking
current
any
plan
sort of
for any CIP, we
debt.
don't borrow.
Right.
It is within town
That's-
resources that they manage that. So, and that's really what the whole CIP process is.
Right.
They review all of the department's requests. They have a pool of money that is the most that they can spend on CIP in any given year. They go down the list, they prioritize the list,
Yeah, it's a good
depending on where
process.
you hit on the priority, and depending on where the money runs to, that's how far you make it through the process. There is a little, give and go given on some of that. Sometimes we walked away from something that was a higher priority to let some other department have something, and they've done the same thing for us. So it's worked both ways, but it is a cooperative system, and it's a public system. It will be, obviously open this year. I think they're actually going to do it, on TV. So good. So the total request will be $1,667,000 even, and that's with the addition of the pickup truck. And I apologize for not having that last time, but I think it is very timely that we put it on there. So
Anybody seen that truck, as I have?
I think young Matthew Sharkey said it best when we first brought it up, and he pointed out that, Mr. Corliss has the worst truck in the entire world to be driving around in. So, yeah, I think if Matthew's noticing, we definitely need to take care of that.
Well, I'd like to motion that we accept the FY19 CIP total request in the amount of $1,667,000 as presented by Mr. Euchner.
And just a nit, Bevy, but I'm going to make a friendly amendment, if I can, to say approve it, not accept it.
Oh, I'm approved.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because hopefully it will be accepted, but yes.
Are you accepting?
Oh, that's it.
Are you accepting it for the?
I'm accepting it.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All those in favor?
I do stand corrected. I should have used the word approved.
No, thank you. Just a wordsmith.
Well,
But
I need a wordsmith once in a
I do
while.
what you bet. Just a comment on the bulk of that, of course, being that dollar amount being the track bleachers press box,
Right.
I just think, for those who haven't heard us try to figure out how to do this, we talked this year about needing a new way or a new approach or a new plan or a new strategy, and the good news is, it seems like the financial position right now of the town is strong.
Yeah.
Such that we should include this, I think. I think Bill's doing the right thing.
I agree.
And I just, I defer to people like Bill and Randy Scollins that tell us, when is the right time, can we do it, what's the right way? I know this committee feels there's a safety concern without it. There's a desire to generate revenue there that we can't do until we've got this. So I personally put a lot of stock and faith in our business administrators in the town to help decide what is the right way. Is it affordable? Is it the right thing to do? Is there cost savings if we do it this way, as Bill talked about? So I'm very pleased that we're putting this forward. I think it is the right thing.
Well, I think a point that I think Deb made a few meetings ago was that, which is very valid, it's still a community field. It was built as a community field. It's used as a community field. It's not the high school's field per se. Just like the Ahern track was not just for the high school sports, it's used by everybody in town. It's used all day long by people walking on it. I mean, I think it's a resource to the community. So I look at this exactly the same way. And yes, while it would help us to potentially raise the money that the community is going to want to have in the future for replacing and upgrading this as it goes, it will be used by many organizations throughout this town.
Well, if the turf field itself is any indication that whether the community concept of the field will be a success, I'd say it's been a big success. So yeah, you're right. Good point. Okay, the calendar for next school year.
Thinking about 2018, 2019.
I know.
I know.
So the calendar that you have before you really mirrors this current school year calendar. Just to call out a couple of things, when we look at things such as this month in particular, in January of 2019, we would have our Professional Development Day and Martin Luther King holiday fall within the same week, which we've not had. But that only ends up disrupting 1 week. So we had a lot of conversation as far as with Todd and through the FEA and looking at this calendar first, through our administrative meeting as well, and looking at that and having conversations to say, well, this is not happened in a while to have both of those. Is that a benefit or is it not? And we decided by having only 1 week interrupted, and then it ends up having 2 long weekends on either side for families as far as school.
Yep.
The other piece is Good Friday falls within April vacation in 2019, so you don't see that separately. It's within the vacation week. Graduation would be a day off than what it is for this current school year. It would be June 2nd. We have it June 3rd this year, so there's a lot of similarities between the calendars as far as start day, starting after Labor Day, September the 4th. Teachers would come back that last week of August. With the last day being the 17th of June, plus assuming the 5 cancellation days that we know that we have to look at. So that would go through the 24th if we had the snow days. I know we've talked about in the past having the last day of school ending on a Monday, and we're not feeling so comfortable about that. But as we know, it doesn't end up happening and coming to reality. So as we've already had our 2 snow days this year, because our current calendar ended on a Monday, but now we know we end on a Wednesday. So it's more likely. As of today. As of today.
It's always February.
So this being your official first year, half year as a superintendent, you
2
don't
weeks.
First 2 weeks.
you don't want to open the can of worms of proposing we consider going back to school pre-Labor
Oh,
Day.
you're so silly.
No, I think this calendar's working just fine.
Do you remember
What
all
are
the
you
time
doing,
we've talked?
Bruce? Yes,
Do you remember
I
all
do.
the time
Doing,
we've
Bruce.
talked about that?
What could possibly go wrong?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think we agreed on those.
Well, as you said, Amy, it looks very similar to this year's calendar, and certainly, in all seriousness, the post-Labor Day thing really isn't a discussion lately, which is nice. That's just the right way to do it for our district anyway. Anybody have any observations?
Looks workable.
So just to repeat, in case anyone's taking notes or cares at this stage, first day of school would be Tuesday, September 4th. And the last day of school, if there were no snow, in the month of June 2019 would be Monday, the 17th of June. And there's some nice long weekends in there for families and students and normal vacations. Looks pretty straightforward. There's still the good investment in professional development, which we're so pleased that you guys do.
Can I just ask why you had E2 but not, it's the elementary, but there was none for the first and the third? Oh, I see one.
Because of their trimester of the terms
don't
for the
see
elementary.
3.
Well, there wouldn't be. 'cause
Be the end of the year.
Yeah,
There's,
yeah.
because we
Yeah.
moved to
Okay.
trimester, so
Yep.
that's the last term.
Joe knows that, right, Joe?
I'm comfortable.
So am I. I move to approve the Foxborough Public School calendar for the year 2018, 2019 as drafted.
Thank you, Marilyn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good, and I appreciate you mentioned Todd Kaiser. I'm glad that you've done the due diligence, of course, to run it past him, to make sure
Oh,
the
yeah.
FEA is good, so that's great.
We have a good working relationship right now with the organization, so let's keep it up. And we need to add an acceptance of a donation now, I believe.
Yeah, so we're on to other matters where we can do that. I want to thank the committee for moving and the presenters for moving right along. We're running a little ahead of schedule and I think accomplished quite a lot, so that's great. Bevy, do you want to start with other matters?
Certainly. The Partners in Patriotism Fund has offered to donate $2,225.26 for the FHS basketball video equipment and warm-ups.
And would you like the motion?
And I would like to motion that we accept this with gratitude.
This is for Foxborough High School girls basketball.
Yes.
Yeah, Foxborough High School girls basketball, yep.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? 4-0 with gratitude. Thank you, Partners in Patriotism Fund.
Very generous, as always.
Thank you for covering
Very
that,
much
Bevy.
appreciated.
Did you have other other matters, Beverly?
No.
Tina?
Let's go Patriots.
Yeah.
I think we all second that. I just wanted to say, it's, midterms week at the high school, and they've made some adjustments to the schedule to let the kids have a slightly later start. I know I had a couple parents request a later start time during midterms, sort of as a pilot, and Diana has worked with the schedule to allow the kids to come in at 8:20 instead of 7:20. And so the extra hour's sleep is beneficial, as we know, for our high schoolers who are up late doing things and studying and whatnot for their, I just appreciate the administration's willingness to work on the schedule and try this out and see how it works. So I hope it's successful. I know my kids appreciated an extra hour of sleep this morning.
Oh, absolutely.
That's it for me.
They do.
I could come up with a few more things, but I thought I was a little wordy the last time. I looked at, there were a lot of bullets under other matters for me. So I'm going to stick with just that one. But thank you to Diana and the administration for
I agree with you. I
having a
think
little
that's-
flexibility in the
that's neat.
scheduling.
Amy?
That's actually what I had as the reminder there, so you've covered that, so thank you.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, you did not at all. I think especially where you have students at the high school and they're experiencing that, so Diana they did a number of communications out so people would know what the schedule was.
And I actually like it. There was a time when only the chairperson kind of did the other matters. And I think it's nice if the community sees that Marilyn has extra things, I have extra things, you want to make sure. I think it proves to the community, not that we're trying to prove, from our position that we're interested, but it's genuine when we get excited about all the things that the students are doing.
Absolutely.
That's it?
I genuinely want to say go Pat.
Pats. Amy, just while we're on you, I want to, I guess, reflect on the fact you've been here for, what'd you say?
2 weeks.
You've been here longer than that. You've been there, not
Right.
here. And you're off to a great start. You and I had a chance to catch up. Congrats and thank you. Everything's good?
Everything's great. That's great, really.
The hardest thing we got talked about was trying to backfill Allison's role so the two of you aren't doing 3 jobs, right?
Exactly. But everyone's been really,
Patient.
they've been really patient and
Accommodating.
accommodating and understanding
Yes.
with, if we've actually said, if we miss something where the two of us are doing the 3 pieces, let us know, because we're trying not to miss anything. But I think that we've both spoken that it does help that we've been in the district for so long.
Oh,
Gosh,
yes.
absolutely. Just the things that I've noticed that I can so quickly get up to speed on has been really fantastic.
Must be tough. Imagine going to a new district.
I can't imagine, that's what I was saying.
I can imagine, but somebody coming into Foxborough,
And the time they would need from Amy,
Right.
and that she
To
doesn't,
adjust.
she has the luxury of saying, what's good, to the point where I say, well, maybe I don't know that much about that. We might need to just pause. But everybody's been great about getting me up to speed,
Good.
including Janet. Thank you, Janet.
Oh, Janet's special.
Yes.
Do you have other matters?
No,
Allison?
the only thing I would say is just a thank you to our community partners and organizations. In order to replace the Exchange City experience, we are starting a new experience that involves service learning and community outreach and trying to hold some of the tenets of that program, but relying on our community partners. And it's been
In
great.
the Hearn School, you mean?
Yes.
At that level?
Yes,
Good.
yes, for our 7th
Good.
grade students to continue that sort of that experience in a different, a new and
Excellent.
different way, and maybe an even more authentic way. So thanks to all the community partners who are stepping up to help our students.
Is that going to commence this year or next year?
Yeah, hopefully.
Nice.
That's the plan.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Alan?
I'm all set, other than
Go Pats.
go Pats.
Bill?
Just a quick, we have a meeting Wednesday, Amy and I and the team from our architectural and OPM to meet with the MSBA on the preferred schematic design for the borough. this is their opportunity to kind of drill on why we've selected as a committee the one we have. As you know, we started off with a number of renditions of renovation and addition, new construction, or just repair. And I think the committee unanimously came down to the conclusion of which it chose. It was one of the renovation and expansion ones, and it is one that really does mirror the education plan for that school very, very well. So this is our opportunity to kind of sell them on it's the right plan to move forward with. So that's this Wednesday. Their next move after that, assuming they agree, would be on the 14th of February to actually approve it, to let us move forward with the actual design on it and further development. So that's all I have.
That's great. Janet?
I think we have a professional development day Friday.
Oh, how did I miss that?
You had a lot of technology to talk about. That's why. Yeah, so no
Thank
super
you.
students, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
important. And the
Thank you.
Winterfest concert is Thursday night. I
Thursday
knew I'd
night.
have something else, but 7 o'clock.
What are you guys focusing on Friday?
We're looking at curriculum work that we haven't, within science at the elementary and math, where we had the choice sessions with the different themes in August and October. So it's back to curriculum development, understanding by design, and the technology integration standards as well, and what that looks like within the curriculum. And then at the high school level, we have the results or the recommendations coming out of the ELA curriculum review, and then taking into that, as well as math and science, are working on interdisciplinary lessons, and then looking at the rubrics from the OECD test for schools and what that looks like within our current practices and current assessments.
Just a normal day. Thank you, Janet. That was a great
Yes,
catch.
thank you very much.
The only thing I'll add is I was getting ready for tonight's meeting and had the news on in the background, and Channel 4, 6 o'clock news. I think it was 6 o'clock news. And suddenly they said, today we visited the Taylor School in Foxborough. And there were a bunch of our Taylor kids. So
Nice.
I believe Channel 4 was in Taylor School today.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were they doing at the Taylor School, might I ask?
I think, I was multitasking.
Doing other- yes.
So, I don't think it was Patriots related, although it might have been. I suspect they sent a truck over because they were down here, would be my guess. But they showed the students assembled in their pajamas. They said it was pajama day.
Pajama day.
Really? So I don't know if that was perhaps part of a theme.
They had
Also,
hat day.
they
the other day.
typically do a weather one.
They do a weather
too,
one,
so
I know
maybe-
that.
It might have been
Yeah.
part of that. I honestly didn't see it all. I just, my ears perked when I heard the Taylor School. in
Taylor School in
Foxborough,
Foxborough.
so.
We'll have to check Twitter and see what we find.
Since we're talking about TV appearances, I should note that our music teachers have their own Facebook page, not your average music teachers, and they did a video of themselves playing their instruments and singing Crazy Train, and posted it in a Go Patriots before the AFC game. And it's received 37,000 hits on Facebook.
How do I access this?
I'll show you.
I'd like to
really
see
cute.
it.
But it's very cute. But it was also on Channel 4 a couple days ago. Yeah, it
Somebody
was.
took a patch to notice.
I hope Gronk knows that's his song.
Yeah,
There you go.
it was a great rendition. So, and that's it. Now I'm really done.
If you need me to call Gronk, I could try.
I hope he's doing all right.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Great idea.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good meeting.